Welcome to ALGO, a lot going on with Raj Gatecha, the number one podcast in Dubai. And today we are talking about Elon Musk losing more money than most people have ever even heard of. On top of that, some changes at Apple with the potential new AR and VR headset coming out. You can now have a business in the UAE from 18 years old. We talk about how great that is, as well as some content recommendations and some sad news coming out of London. Crime set there seems to be out of control. We're going to give you our 2 cents on it. We also talk about some incredible content recommendations, TV shows, and more. We're back for one episode only, the three of us, all here at my flat. Hope you enjoy the show. It's really, really incredible. Alex, run the music. All right, so we're back. Take 2. None of you will ever know this, but we had a whole bit that we just recorded, 13 minutes, and then Alex forgot to hit record. So welcome back, Alex. How does it feel to be? How does it feel to be back in the flat?
It feels very good, very good. Thank you.
Yeah,
feels a bit weird though, because I was coming here every single day, basically in the morning, and then what? It's been probably six months since I've come back.
More, man. Yeah, when was?
Yeah, June.
June we did the birthday party. Then we probably worked a few days from here, didn't we?
Yeah. So
I left right after my birthday.
Pretty much straight away
Yeah,
after your birthday party, you left.
Yeah. So end of June was the last time I was working with you guys.
Yeah.
Damn.
Here we are. More than 6 months. He's back. Joining me as always is Vic.
What up?
How are you?
Yeah, good. The band is back together.
Mm-hmm. The drummer's only got one arm. But we've got everything recording now. We've got the audio, we've got the cameras and everything. So let's get into some news. First story of the day.
Yeah, so some news coming out of Apple. So Apple are set to announce the Reality Pro VR headset will be coming out in spring, which is a delayed release, right? It was supposed to come out last year. Is that right?
This year, January, was the official date. If things had gone well and 2020 had not happened, it could have been as early as last year. And now, because there's been numerous delays, we're probably looking at some point this year. But as recently as October, November, it was supposed to be coming out in January.
So tell me about it. What do you know about the headset? Because I don't really know much about it.
So I had the heads up when we spoke about this in 2019.
Yeah.
I had the heads up from a very, very reliable source saying that it's going to be coming out 2023. And then, as I mentioned, if earlier, Q4 2022. And it is predominantly going to be aimed at like the upper tier computing Apple customer. So it's not going to be necessarily like a consumer thing, although I'm sure there'll be consumer apps on there. I think whatever they build when it comes to UX, UI is going to be far better than anything that we've seen on Oculus, because design is something that Apple does natively really, really well. And you're looking at like a $3,000 price point. Use cases include predominantly creation, things that you'd normally use a screen for, not high intensity stuff like video editing and stuff like that for the time being, but certainly in terms of like browsing, documentation, consuming things like Apple TV. One of the things that is being circulated around Silicon Valley a lot at the moment is that you'll be able to have as many screens as you want. So you can basically press a button and have the equivalent of like an IMAX experience, or you can have like 3 small screens next to each other. It's going to be very, very useful for coding. Another use case as well is just straight up privacy, because if you're on a plane and you want to do some work, typically, unless you're flying business or first, then anybody can look over your shoulder and see what you're working on. When you've got glasses, you don't necessarily have that issue. So this is what the use case is going to be, but it's like a new product for a customer that doesn't exist yet outside Oculus and things of that nature. Yeah. So there's a lot to play for. Yeah,
it feels like it's going to be much more on a B2B kind of side of things rather than consumer. And I think, if they get the tech right, and, coding was one of the things that I thought about. When you said multiple screens, I thought of 2 people in a business. One is coding and the other one is finance, because they look at like multiple spreadsheets and things like that. Then you've got traders and anyone that's kind of in the investment world or the finance world. So there's a use case for that. So probably it might just be like an enterprise tool to begin with, and then start testing it through that and then permeate through to consumer. But I can't see it being consumer for some time, because, the use cases that you mentioned are really pretty much all business focused. And at that price point, I can't see many average consumers kind of going for it, even if there is consumer apps on there.
Yeah, I think the one thing about this kind of scenario is can it be paired with something that can map a room? So, for example, I thought this was very strange yesterday, but I spend a lot of time on Zoom. Every day I'm on Zoom a lot. And I keep thinking to myself, okay, how could this experience be better? And if, for example, if we're recording this podcast, one of the reasons why we chose to do it here today is because there's just a different chemistry when we're all in the same room together. And if we can get a step towards that chemistry through VR, then that could be something that could make, you know, podcast chemistry and things like that even a little bit better. But what that would require is something like a LiDAR sensor combined with a camera that would sit in the middle of a room, that would map that room and then create virtual images. So we were just at the Skift conference, right? And they brought in Chris Nassetta, who's the CEO of Hilton, I think.
I think it's Hilton. Yeah,
pretty sure. Yeah, and they brought him in via hologram. So we are kind of itching towards like these much closer scenarios. I would definitely consider having a set of Apple glasses or Apple VR if I knew it could bring me like closer to my clients. It's just what's required on the client side as well to do it. But it's very, very early stage. And again, with version 1 as well, there'll be a little bit of reluctance, I think, from your average consumer, especially going into like tricky economic times. It's not going to take off and have the hockey stick kind of growth that iPhone had, or even AirPods, to be honest. And then there's also this issue of like, do people want their face covered? People spend millions of dollars. I mean, LASIK, getting your eyes repaired, is probably a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's not an industry that's going anywhere. People like the idea of having their face kind of free of any kind of distractions. The eyes are probably sit at the top of the food chain when it comes to senses. So I think people don't necessarily like having them covered. So there's a lot to see. It's gonna be an interesting experiment. But then there's also the fact that the people that are talking about it and bringing it to market is Apple, and you really just can't doubt that company, especially when they're currently rethinking mixed reality. They're currently rethinking automotive and transport. They've probably got a bunch of stuff in and around health as well. So it's just how will it play out, you know?
And they'll be able to integrate all of those tools, all that hardware and all that software over a period of time. They'll integrate everything as they do. Yeah. So, you're kind of deeper into the Apple ecosystem. So that there's obviously opportunity there. I think the podcast thing is an interesting one, but the only challenge I see with that is that, there's a cost factor, and then, B, kind of everyone has to be in sync when they're using these headsets. So most podcasters don't have that kind of money. It'd have to be on the big boys, and a lot of the big boys don't want that. They do it live because that's the reason that they've reached a scale, and the popularity is because most of them do it live or in person. So maybe that kind of virtual reality type scenario may not play out well for them. So it's a bit of a tricky one, but who knows? Well,
let's see. Like if I know Spotify and Apple are kind of like the frenemies of all industry, but you never know. Maybe Apple slides Joe Rogan 25 mil and says, "Yo, can we get 6 episodes where you're using these glasses, and we'll beam the person in?" And what does that mean for adoption? Do you know what I mean? But it's another thing like that as well. It's like I compare this to, like, for example, the iPad, right? You don't often see iPads in typical use case scenarios, right? It's not as if everybody's got an iPad. You probably know more people with MacBooks than people that have got iPads.
True.
Yet and still, if you go on location at like a construction site or something like that, although the iPad is covered in all sorts of like bounce proof and Kevlar and all this other stuff, it's still being used in those situations. And so where we see these glasses emerge and what they're doing in the short term is still to be seen.
The iPad is a really good example, actually, because as the iPhone has become better and better, and MacBooks have become better but also more affordable, the iPad sort of becomes redundant for your average consumer. But the use case for iPad is absolutely within the kind of business world, like you mentioned, and also schools as well. So my son's school is Apple certified, and it's compulsory to buy an Apple iPad from their reseller that fits the right spec and everything. And then they manage it, their IT department manage it and make sure there's restrictions and whatever. But that's really the use case for iPad. And again, back to this VR headset, I think at least in the short term, maybe even the medium term, it's really just going to be that play rather than consumer. Maybe they just want to like test it in that world first.
Net, do you think they'll make it work or no?
Yeah, I think so. I think eventually. I don't think it'll be in the next year or two, but I think eventually when they figure it out, maybe in the next 3-4 years.
But make it work. What do you mean? Like for like en masse, like consumer, or
like get
whatever
it
pocket
to,
it's
get it
supposed
to the
to be
level
in?
where it's like iPad or beyond in terms of use case?
I think so. I think they'll figure out a way to implement certain use cases for it to fit majority of people, or not majority, but a big group of people. In terms of, you said iPad for your kid, maybe they'll implement it into schools somehow.
Yeah. And I think we saw some stuff, as we've spoken about before, in November around VR, and that's specifically within the business environment and kind of like heavy industry stuff. So there's obviously like a use case for that for VR to like testing and modeling before you start investing heavily in manufacturing or whatever it might be. So there's that opportunity there. But the iPad has become really just a non-consumer product. Is very much a business product, even if it's an individual using it. Like I think your sister Sonal uses it for CAD, right? For like interior design and drawing and mock-ups and stuff. But again, that's not a consumer use case. That's a business use case. And I feel like the VR headset is going to go down that route.
I think VR will be interesting for, as you mentioned, interior design.
Yeah, mapping rooms.
Yeah, be put in a room. Do
so
everything you want.
So maybe even like
looks.
showcasing a room to a client.
Showcasing. Someone can walk in, see exactly what their apartment will look like, put their own furniture in there.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
There is a holy trinity at the top of Apple's ecosystem, though, which you could argue is AirPods, MacBooks, and iPhone. Yeah. And to crack into that holy trinity would require a sequence of events that is it'd be quite crazy. It's like with Jay-Z, it's like there's the Black Album, the Blueprint, and Reasonable Doubt. It's like if you want to get into that top three, you're going to have to do something miraculous. And it doesn't mean that the other things can't be successful, but it just means that, but if you want to break into that thing that's really captured hearts and minds, that moment might have already passed for Apple until they release a car. I think that's all to play for. Like Scott Galloway was speaking at DLD conference a few days ago, and they were talking about electric cars. I, by coincidence, had a bit of time with the electric car community last week, and Tesla has had a long run just as like the electric car company. But Scott Galloway was like, "Have you seen the Mercedes one, which I've seen and I love?" And he said, "Have you seen the BMW 7 Series?" He goes, "That stuff is like really, really legit." So I think we're going to see a changing of the guard, and I think second mover advantage, like the Mercedes and all these other players that are coming in, even these smaller ones like Kia, is interesting. But I think the Apple's going to do like the third move advantage of all time when it comes to cars. They're going to let Tesla go first. They're going to let the other brands go afterwards, the general brands go afterwards, and then Apple will come with something that's been completely rethought.
I think for electric vehicle, and I don't know this world at all. Like it's not something that's in my wheelhouse, but this is purely like a feeling. I feel like if electric vehicles are going to really like be adopted at the level that governments etc. want it to be, it has to be a car first and then an electric. So what I mean by that is Tesla is still almost a concept car, and we sat in Teslas. I'm sure we've all sat in Teslas. They're fine, they're great, they're beautiful, they're a bit kind of difficult in the back, and they don't feel like a car when you get in them. And the people that buy Teslas are buying it because they want a Tesla and they want the electric. Apple, I'm not sure what they'll do, but like when you think about a Mercedes or even a Kia or a BMW, it's a car first. So they're thinking like car manufacturers and designers, and the electric part is not secondary, but it's a component of the car rather than the car being a component of it being electric. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think that for me as an individual, that's how I see it. And I think like an average person when it comes to cars. I'm not a car expert or enthusiast or anything like that. And I think most people in the world, en masse would think about cars like I do. It's just a very simple kind of thing. I'd rather have a car that is electric than electric, which is a car. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's about where's the center point of gravity. And if your center point of gravity, your loyalty is with Mercedes, it's a welcome change when they now offer you a car that you've loved available in electric. You're like, oh wow, it's come to me. But it's the technology meeting you where you are with your preferences and your tastes, rather than you having to change those tastes and preferences. And if you like a Tesla, if you like pressing a button to open the door and all that kind of stuff, and you're into all that quirky rethinking, then the Tesla's the right car for you. Reality is most people that I know of, when it comes to opening a door, they reach for a handle. And that's a pretty efficient way. And also I think tactically as well, it's quite nice when you open the inside of a car to use a handle. Whereas if you press a button and then it kind of unlocks it, it's almost like anybody who opens, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but when you open a car, you raise your arm, you unlock it, and then you use your elbow to push the car door open, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you just press a button, then you've got to move your hand to open the door, because it'll technically unlock the door, but it won't open the door for you.
Yeah, I don't.
So it's kind of, you know, it's like that. Sometimes it's rethinking for the sake of rethinking. It's like, yes, technically you did make a change, but did you make it? Was it directionally correct?
I don't want to have to think about opening up a car door. Like, I just want to open the door. Like, it's not an action that I want to like have multiple steps to or multiple thought processes to.
Yeah, but
it's just unnecessary.
But I also think like you just get used to it, right? That then you stop thinking about it.
Fair.
That's the thing. It's
It's
not like
it's the trade-off though. Is what's it getting you used to? Like that camera in the Tesla that shows your blind spots is incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
I actually just went and saw his Tesla for the first time when we came home. It was super nice.
Oh, nice.
And I had never seen those blind spot cameras before.
Yeah.
And it's
in
amazing.
Dubai, it is particularly useful.
Yeah,
that's
true.
It's
That's
particularly
true.
useful.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, yeah, that's all great. But again, you know, the price point and all that kind of stuff, the wait, the lead time to get it. If your other car manufacturers that you're kind of used to, like you said, like I love Mercedes, I love BM, you know, if they offered me an affordable car that was electric that I could get quick enough, I'd consider it.
I think also just charging spaces, right, need to be more widely available, at least in certain places in the world.
Yeah, I think that'll come with time.
Yeah, that'll come with time for sure. But just as of now, I think that's a bit of an issue in some places.
Speaking of electric cars and Tesla specifically, Elon Musk is in the news again, but for something completely different. So he's actually broken a world record for the largest loss of personal fortune in history. So I actually think he's welcoming this because it's another bit of news. So apparently he's lost $182 billion of his personal wealth or his wealth since November 2021. And that's mostly due to the drop in Tesla's share price.
Yeah.
So he's having a tricky run at the moment.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So the Tesla share price as well is like, it's an interesting one because there isn't obviously he's got CEOs and things like that, but he is kind of like a key man, and he touches so many different parts of the business, from the strategy to the marketing of Tesla, and getting that original community to kind of follow him. And I think that community is like saying to him, okay, you know what, you've now gone and got another family outside our family, and you're a dad to them and you're a dad to us, and now we're starting to feel neglected. And by the way, it's funny how it correlates between his life and the number of women he's got pregnant and the number of companies he has. He can't be a full-time dad to any one of those family units, and he can't be a full-time dad to Tesla. And normally it's fine because he's got exceptional talent. He's an exceptional dad, so he can keep all of those companies running using CEOs, CFOs, COOs, which is getting the village to help, right? Getting your uncle to chip in, getting your aunt to chip in. But it's now got to the stage whereby the core family that matters, the original family, the Tesla family, is now starting to fall apart. And a lot of that's got to do with not only his time being spent on Twitter, but also some of the antics and some of the things that he said that split certain communities, that he's kind of like riled them up, whether it be the far left or LGBTQ community. Like, there are different communities that have heard his comments and gone, you know what? It's getting to the stage where those comments I associate with your products and services, and now I'm just going to divorce from those products and services. There are people that will not buy Tesla based on the fact that they know that he will benefit from it. And now with Mercedes, BMW, and so many other brands around the corner, they're like, you know what? I'll wait. Because what's the worst that's going to happen if I really, really want an electric car and BMW offers me an alternative? Really, there's no worst case scenario. So let's just back away from Elon. He's had that situation that Kanye's had, which is that, you know, the antics on the internet and the antics on Twitter now start to affect consumer choices when they hit retail.
Yeah, I mean, there's pretty much nothing I can add to that. I completely agree with all of that.
Yeah,
it's a good story because it keeps him in the news. And again, like I said, I don't think he fundamentally cares about this kind of news. I think he cares about the companies, and I think he cares about the impact that he's having on the world. But I think he just gets distracted way too easily.
He's sold a lot of Tesla shares, hasn't he?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I
I
haven't
think
heard,
he has.
I haven't heard about
I think he
that,
sold
but
a lot of
maybe.
Tesla shares to ensure that he continues to get like liquidity when it comes to like Twitter and everything else that's going
Okay.
on. So yeah, he's lost a ton of money. It's really interesting as well because we just came off the back of the Apple story, and Tim Cook has taken a pay cut, right?
Yeah, he
Or
did.
a different mix in his compensation. So we're seeing now. I mean, and it's not that really this affects any of these people on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis. I'm sure Tim Cook's going to go down the route of I'll give it all away once I die type behavior anyway. But you know, even with Tim Cook's, what was Tim Cook's compensation mix change?
So now he's going to take a pay cut to 49 million in total
Yep.
compensation. So that'd be a mix of I guess,
RSUs.
like,
He's got restricted stock units.
he's got restrictions, but that's also
because he only
decreasing as well.
gets 3 million in cash, if I'm not mistaken, or
3 mil-
2.9 million in
yeah.
cash.
So
3 million.
yeah, last year was 83 million in stock awards, 12 million in incentives, 3 million in salary. But there is something around his restricted stock. I'll find it.
Yeah. For him, it's not going to make a big difference, but I think it's also a signal as well that of like fiscal responsibility, because Apple is a publicly traded company, and they probably don't need to show all the cuts they're making here, there, and everywhere. If they can just show a significant cut in the management team, it's funny that this story didn't make a big deal of who else on the C-suite is taking a cut and why. But the reality is, it's going to be like take away with one hand and then give back double with the other. Because when the market does spike up, when we see the uplift in the share price when it comes to the vehicles or when it comes to the AR headsets or who knows what else they've got under their belt. I'll tell you one thing that I think is going to happen. We should make this into a clip in 6 months' time. Is that I think they're going to lean into the USB-C iPhone because they don't want to do it, and Lightning is worth the Lightning interface for charging up your phone is worth a lot to them, because not only do they make that, but they also license that technology to OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. But it's like if you take that away and you then embrace USB-C or wireless charging, net can that be construed in a way whereby it's still like profitable for Apple? So I think they're going to say, you know what, we're coming to USB-C. We're going to make this now into something, because I think that Europe has got a manifesto out now, right?
They
I was
have-
going to
they-
say,
yeah,
there's
they-
something, right?
I think
heard
they have
about
to
that.
by the year 2024, 2025.
That is, everything
Yeah.
is USB-C.
Yeah, they have to.
So it's either going to be in this next cycle or the cycle after
Yeah.
that. And if they don't do it, they might just leapfrog it and say, you know what, no more charging like through cables. It's all going to be wireless, and we can get you there charged in the same amount of time. Which, by the way, is still a cable. You're just
Yes.
You're just not penetrating the phone.
Yeah.
You're just touching it superficially to get the charge into it.
That's probably the most likely scenario, I think.
Which
I
I
think,
hate.
What, wireless charging?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it depends on the wireless charger, right? But
Yeah, I think they'll figure out something, but
yeah, I think
They got
I
rid
think,
of the headphone guys.
yeah,
and
that's
we
what
adjusted.
I mean. I think
that's true.
yeah, that's what I mean. I think overall they probably will bypass USB-C.
Yeah.
It's a stopgap that they probably just don't need. Wireless charging is a thing, and it's
Yeah.
not like completely alien to most people. You know, people understand it, and whereas it's not amazing, Apple can make it amazing. It's not like they can't.
Over time, yeah.
of
Yeah,
course.
they'll figure something
So
out.
they
I'm
can
sure.
bypass USB-C, and that would be an unnecessary stopgap. And I think also that will play into like public sentiment. So like Tim Cook taking a pay cut, all of these things that plays into public sentiment. It obviously helps them in the long run, right?
Yeah.
Whoops.
And if they come back and say, hey, listen, it's wireless charging, but, you know, many people complain that in years 2 to 3, your battery starts to get a bit terrible, which it does. And in return, in response, we have now got your battery will last minimum 5 years. And then we'll put the sustainability angle on that. And also don't forget as well, there's the direction of the electricity as well, right? So you could have a wireless charger at the moment, which is the size of like, you know, a 10 pence piece or whatever. Let's say it's like 3-4 centimeters in diameter. But if they then come up with a wireless charging pad and that charges, instead of, you know, you normally plug it into the bottom of the phone, then the electricity has to travel up into the battery. But if they turn around tomorrow and say, it's the size of an iPhone, you lay it on there directly, and the sensor is the outer rim of the iPhone, and electricity is conducted in at scale from the whole outer rim of the iPhone into the middle of the battery, and it can do it in 20 minutes, full charge. Again, with Apple, it's always give and take. You know, you get rid of the headphones, you got the AirPods, you know, these things, the way they synchronize, they might even be like 18, 24, 36 months apart. But the handovers, when you look at a 10-year gap, 10-year like window frame, they're generally quite smooth, you know?
Yeah, my biggest issue with wireless is just that I think they need to find a way for people to be able to use their phone while it's charging wirelessly. Because right now, to charge your phone wirelessly, you have to put it on a pad, and you're not going to pick up that pad while using your phone while it's charging. So I think they need to figure out a way to be able to use your phone while it charging wirelessly.
They might have some kind of, at some point they might put some kind of, you know, thing
like a magnet
on the
kind
cover,
of,
like a slimline, like credit card size type thing.
Yeah, but then it's like, why not just use it wirelessly, right? Because it'll definitely be heavier if you're
it'd be like a little
pad.
travel wireless charger, maybe that you can charge.
I'm sure they'll figure out something.
They've still got stuff they can do with like, you know, the IPX or IP6 rating, whatever it's called, the waterproof
IP6
rating. If they get rid of that,
yeah.
if they get rid of that whole socket,
Yeah,
because that socket some way or another, even if it's through electricity, has to connect with the motherboard.
Yeah.
And if they can seal that off and say, here's some of the advantages, then you never know what the case may be. And what we have seen as well with the last Apple Watch is they came up with this Apple Watch Extreme Edition, right? Basically for like folks like you, Alex, that go up and down mountains. Like,
I don't do that, but yeah.
But like that's the kind of thing whereby they might say, you know what, we've got these other additional use cases.
Yeah.
So let's see how it goes. But when it comes to compensation, I mean, the world's most successful business people, most powerful business people in tech, where they almost become like, you know, prime ministers and presidents, they're so powerful, them having their compensation adjusted. And it's funny, it's happened in two different ways. Like Apple's is voluntary, it's hygienic, it's gone through the board, and Elon's is just as a result of bad practice. Because, you know, you can say what you want. Under no circumstances did Elon ever want this, because he was on a trajectory upwards. So to lose, I don't know how many. The amount of money he's lost is there's probably like 10 to 15 country economies, where he's lost their whole annual GDP.
Well, it's saying that it's close to 200 billion, actually. I said 182 or whatever, but it's close to 200 billion potentially, which is ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. No one could even, like, individuals can't even fathom the amount of money that he's lost. You can't even picture that sort of money, you know, as an average individual.
It's also almost 4 times the previous most lost capital money.
Which was?
Which was Mayoshi's son in 2000, who lost 58.6 billion.
From SoftBank?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. He lost what?
Yeah. 58.6 billion.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying Jesus to that, but that's 200 billion.
Mayoshi, like SoftBank heading into 2020 was like the punching bag of so many different companies, right? Because their association with WeWork and other brands that had gone down, Uber and all that. So, yeah, well, that's sucks to be him, I guess.
I lost 3 dirham coins down the sofa the other day, and I can't find it.
Yeah. Punching the air while you're there.
So let's now move on to some different type of news coming out the Middle East. So, you know, we've spoken a lot about the Middle East, like Dubai and the UAE making big swings, and also Saudi making big swings. And now there's another one that's in the works. It's not completed, it's not inked, but the World Wrestling Entertainment, which previously was called WWF, is in talks to sell to Saudi Public Investment Fund for $6.5 billion. So it's not a done deal yet. There is also talks with like Comcast and a bunch of other kind of entities out in the US. And, you know, Saudi's just making big swings again. Now, Saudi already has a relationship with WWE. They do. They've got like a 10-year relationship since 2014.
Yeah, they've already done a few events there.
And they have got like a couple of events that they do every year, I think, in Saudi,
In Saudi, yeah.
So this could be another big, huge win. Like, obviously, you've got Ronaldo, you've got Liv, you've got, you know, Newcastle Football Club and
Newcastle.
Middle Beast and all these massive swings. And, you know, WWE is...
It's big. It's big.
Huge. Like, you know, it's been a part of people's childhoods and adult lives for 30, 40 years.
For so long.
But what happens if they change hands? Like, they've got a formula, right? A base formula. And that formula is inherently tied to, like, US culture, right?
Yeah.
Like rags to riches, heroes, villains, all that kind of stuff. And there could be some reframing, but I feel like if it changes hands, they're not going to do it so that they change the code base of what WWE is.
I don't think they will.
But what it'll do is it'll empower them to like localize WWE more towards the Middle East region, Asia Pacific region. But what's really, really important about this is that the stories and the themes that the WWE conveys which we were very, we saw that on satellite television when we were coming up in the 80s and 90s, is when our societies in the UK and the US were basically where Saudi society is today.
Mm-hmm.
So you see Saudi going towards hip hop and what hip hop means to Saudi at the moment. You're now going to start seeing them go towards like WWE. And what they're doing is they're taking these building blocks that were used to build up culture in the US, and they're now taking those building blocks and transferring them into the Middle East, specifically Saudi, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai, and even Qatar by taking the what do they say, World Cup. So it's really interesting because they're saying like, listen, if you're not going to use that spanner and hammer set anymore, we'll take it. We'll take it secondhand, effectively, because our country's at a place whereby having this programmed on our television, having this in our stadiums, having visiting from these people could actually allow us to reach our cultural goals. And their cultural goals are very close. Saudi 2030 is, I mean, where are we now? 2023?
Yeah, it's around the corner.
7 years is not a lot of time.
Yeah, I agree. So that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that
it's a transplant. It's a cultural transplant.
There's like going to be a homegrown WWE industry if Saudi does end up inking this deal, and that's what it will be. Like you'd see, wrestlers from the region becoming part of the storyline and things like that. And back to your point about the kind of code base, I don't think fundamentally it's going to change. In America, it's still going to be what it is. It actually can't change too much.
I don't think it can.
It's been the same formula for years. It just like gets bigger and better and whatever. And Vince McMahon is now back because he disappeared for a little while. There's a lot of controversy around him.
He was in the Me Too mix, right?
Yeah, like a lot of controversy around him. And there was like apparently like under the table payments and all that kind of stuff for hush money, right?
Which is normal for the 80s and 90s. That's super normal.
Yeah, so
not right, but it was just a regular occurrence.
Very normal, yeah. And then, but he's gonna if this all happens, and he'll stay on as the head of creative, the creative director, and therefore that storylines won't change. He'll just take his formula and go, okay, well, how do we localize it to the Middle East market? And you'll see this like WWE Middle East kind of version, a WWE Emmy.
I think it'd be interesting to see where it goes, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I just have no idea where it could go because it's been the same for so long, and I feel like they're gonna want to change at least some things, even if it's not to change the way events happen in the US. I think they'll have to adapt it a little bit for events that happen within the Middle East.
You think of it like a franchise, right? So like American Idol, all that kind of stuff just comes out of there and it goes to like, UK Idol and Japan Idol or whatever it is. It'll just be like a franchise of WWE, and it'll just be localized. And then they'll do they'll do like marquee events, like the UFC do, like NBA's done with Abu Dhabi. Like all these big marquee events that they'll bring out to the Middle East, and then there'll be like a little tour of the Middle East and things like that. Yeah, it's just a global expansion, effectively. Right?
Yeah, literally.
That could happen.
Well, yeah, and I think on the clip that was sent around the group chat as well, I saw some of the footage of the last big WWE event. I don't know what it was, but it was call it whatever you want. They had
the
cage
one in
matches.
Saudi, or
no, it was
just in
I don't know
general.
which one it was. Yeah, it was in the news clip that went around on the group chat. But there was a 9-minute summary of whatever their big event was. Call it WrestleMania or whatever. And I watched it, and it looked rubbish. Like it looked really lame and tired. In a world where you've now got Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you've got UFC, boxing is now split into like still traditional boxing, and then you've got like celebrity boxing. There are so many other sports now that you can watch that are like, hang on a second, this is so much more real, that you watch WWE and you go, yeah, okay, cool. I just wonder today if a 9-10-year-old would be interested in it. I've never seen Ine talk about WWE, and he's probably got access to the content if he wanted it, if he started following it. I'm sure he'd watch it. I don't know, does he watch it?
No, he doesn't, but he's been asking me to show it to him, so maybe one day I will.
I'd be interested to see him watching it.
I think it's still very entertaining for kids.
Yeah,
I'd say, and I think the adults that watch it are just super diehard fans who will never let go of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've got time, no girlfriend, right? So may as well. And then the another thing as well is that do you then, to Vic's point about franchising, I don't think it is the same as franchising, but it could lend itself towards like a league architecture, which is, do you have like WWE Africa, WWE APAC and Middle East? Because then what starts happening is you've then got the equivalent of, Hulk Hogan, The Rock, or whoever, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, in the US and the Americas, and that could be Americas and Europe and the West. and then you could have your like Middle East and Africa one,
yeah.
and then at times then they can cross pollinate, right? Where like, because we've had this situation before where you had WWE, but then you also had another one, didn't you, Vic, which was like a B brand.
Yeah, it was so you had WWE, and then it was WCW.
WCW,
Yeah.
right? So why not just have your own WCW? Like, why not just be the two WWEs, and then at times you can cross pollinate.
Yeah.
So when the US market is like, you know, on timeout, they can come and tour people, because ultimately the more wrestlers you've got, the more matches you've got, the more people you can address, and you're not exhausting them if you're serving two different markets.
That's very true.
But that's what I mean. So, you know, you mentioned WWE, India, this, that, and the other. That's effectively what I'm saying. Maybe franchise is the wrong word, but like using the American Idol thing as an example, you know, it's a WWE, Emmy, or KSA, and then et cetera, et cetera. That's effectively what it'd be. And maybe not leagues, but it will just be territory based.
Yeah.
And then you'd have like, then you probably have like these massive like global Royal Rumbles and stuff like that. You know, that's also,
Global Rumble would be an amazing idea where you've got do you not have that with like the European football leagues?
Champions League.
Yeah, you get the top 3 or 4 teams out of England, top 3 or 4 out of another country.
Yeah, depends the league, but yeah, you get top 3, top 4, top 2, depending on the league,
weighting,
and then yeah.
So we could definitely see
huge
that
league.
happening. It's worth watching. I just think, you know, there's so many things out there between HBO, Netflix, Disney. There's so many brand and IP owners out there that just WWE is. It's probably a right time for them to do a deal like this. I also believe as well, looking at the group chat as well, that the actual sale or confirmation of the sale has been retracted, and they're just trying to keep it like rumor level for now, which makes sense because it's, you know, you don't want to announce this kind of stuff too quickly, especially if there's still like due diligence going on. But what I will say is just instinctively, based on the kind of business that we've seen happening in the world and knowing what WWE is as a franchise, the 7 billion number seems low. You feel like that team is probably not making the most amount of money that they could make from it.
Yeah.
Considering how significant it is. So they are going to need to expand their markets and broaden their horizons. What else is going on?
I'm actually just trying to find, just on that point,
Yeah.
the viewership for last WrestleMania, and for some reason I can't find it, but the one in India, so WrestleMania 38, which was last year, 2022, was seen by 56.1 million people in India on Sony Sports Network. So
just within India, no.
yeah, so it's still,
My God.
yeah, it's still not a
that's a
small.
huge
It's still not small.
Yeah, but then you got to do your average revenue per user, and in India it's nothing.
Sure, but I'm just talking about like in terms of interest and viewership, right? So
Yeah.
the opportunity is huge. So maybe they're going from America, and then they're like, next stop is Middle East, and next stop is kind of India and the Far East, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, and
Did you see-
wrestling's not unknown. Like wrestling is common in India, right? Like there's like a whole wrestling industry. You know, like
There's always been. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
with the Pathans and all that. Yeah.
exactly. So it's not. It's, you know, it's there's interest there.
Yeah.
So obviously the opportunity is there. So
Yeah, it's just that the ones wrestling in India and Pakistan are just like covered in a rag, right? And just like
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's just like village wrestling or some
but
weird stuff.
they'll go and pimp it up. But yeah, more
Yeah.
news coming out of the Middle East. So UAE has announced that they're going to allow. They've changed the age limit in the UAE for people to be able to run a business. So previously it was 21, where you could have your own business, and now they've changed that to 18 years of age. Why do you think they've done that? You could open a business now, Alex.
Yeah, it really could, right?
Yeah.
Come back here after uni. I mean,
Then
Or-
you'd be over 21.
then I'd
so
be
then-
over
yeah.
21. I
Well
know,
done.
but I don't live here right now, so it's not really an option.
So why do you think they've done this? Moved it down to 18 from 21?
I think if you look at the average age and use case as to why you would move to the Middle East for the last 15 years, there's a couple. One is just economic migrancy, which is there is an opportunity here on arbitrage to make money tax-free. We've spoken about that before. There's opportunities, or you may have tapped out in your home country as a 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. And because there's a talent deficit here, you can get a higher paying job, which is tax-free. So you multiply those two things together. It leads to a better quality of life, better house, better car, better everything. I still think that still remains. But I also think as well that, firstly, it brings it in line with other territories. I believe in the UK, if I'm not mistaken, you can register a business from 16 or even younger.
Nice.
Maybe just give that a quick Google, Alex. But on top of that as well, you've got to ask yourself, in these economies, what is the options for an 18-year-old right now? And as university falls, and as kids are so much smarter now by the time they get to 18, where in the UK they've already had a Shopify business, or they've already done some drop shipping, or like in Alex's case, they can already get paid work to fly as a drone pilot at the age of 17. It's like, well, what's considered an adult, not biologically anymore, but what's considered an economically valuable adult? And there's going to be much more economically valuable adults in that 18 to 21 range. Now, when they're looking at where do they go, they're then going to open the map and they're going to do maybe a little bit of what our generation did, which is maybe I'll move to Australia, or maybe I'll hit the US or Canada. There's not many other places you can really go. But in terms of like if you're raised in the UK system, and I think that, and now Dubai is going to become a real option. Plus Dubai's got this incredible global hype cycle. I'm talking specifically from a UK perspective, but just like adjust and multiply that for other places, other countries that pump out a lot of talent, Germany and other places like that. So I think that's the reason why they've done it. It's just like, well, why not? If you're prepared to come here, you're prepared to adhere to the rules. The only difference in experience really is going to be that you're not going to be able to participate in like drinking, which for some people doesn't even matter. Because one thing I do know to be a fact, and I can't reveal my sources on this one, unfortunately, but I had a conversation with a really significant person in the alcohol industry in December, and I said, we were talking about some business that we were at the time, and I was like, how's things? He goes, well, we got this. He goes, but kids have lost interest in drinking. And it's because you can afford to have like when we were young, in your early 20s, mid 20s, your like fat period, where before you decide that actually finding a mate is valuable and settling down, you have this period of time where your body is just not in particularly good shape. And that's because you're only worried about certain people looking at you, potential employers, family members, a potential mate. Whereas now you're always on camera with Instagram. And so kids are like, you know what, actually, I know that I recognize good from bad. And so alcohol consumption is generally down. So even that's not going to be a variable for an 18, 19-year-old. You at 17, Alex, were like, I'll go do a year at uni and see how it goes. But if it didn't work out for you, you'd have hit another market, right? America, Europe, maybe here, maybe somewhere else.
Yeah. I think most likely Europe or here. I don't have a huge interest in the US, but yeah, I was totally set on doing a year in uni and seeing how it goes.
The drinking thing is also interesting because it's not the culture for teenagers here.
That's very true.
From accessibility and legality and all that kind of stuff. You don't catch many 13, 14-year-olds thinking about drinking, whereas in other markets, Europe, UK, America, it's part of the kind of culture, whether it's kind of under the covers or not, it's still part of the culture.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing I think is, and bear in mind, you could still open a company here when you were 18. So between 18 and 21, it needed to be registered under a legal guardian, and you're effectively a temporary owner. And then at the age of 21, you then get the shares transferred over to you, and then you become the rightful owner based on you become the rightful owner. But
we'd be spinning it on his head. I just thought about it from a UK perspective, but from a young Emirati perspective.
Well, this is what I was going to say. So think about it this way. Everything that you said is right, because then Dubai becomes a bit more globally attractive for a younger audience that might not want to go university and do a year out, or at least test different countries. The other thing is here, kids that are growing up, something that I'm finding now, and I'm just kind of thinking about this a lot, is that when kids grow up here, more and more kids are growing up here than before. So there's a real possibility that Ine might do his teenage years here or not. That remains to be seen. But a lot of his friends, parents that I speak to, are not looking at anywhere else but here, bringing their kids up here. And that wasn't as common as before. So now, how do we get them, plus the local Emiratis, into the workforce quicker, earlier, and experience earlier? This is one way to do it, because again, going to the local shop and working in a shop as a teenager, like we used to do, is not a done thing here. So maybe like bringing that barrier down and the age limit lower allows kids to go, okay, when I'm 18, that's something to be able to shoot for, because they can't get the experience when they're 14, 15, 16 doing the nanny job, like what's it called, like the babysitting job, the little, stacking shelves in the local supermarket shop, like that kind of thing that we grew up on.
But from an Emirati perspective as well, like if an 18-year-old has grown up watching entrepreneurship videos for 5 years, from 13 to 18, and they're itching to go and register their own company, why would you stop them? Like as a country, you're right. You had like the option to register one, but you don't become the rightful owner until you pass 21. It's also not a bad system, to be fair. Sure. But yeah, like why would you want to stop an 18-year-old who says, you know what, I'm prepared to, using my money or my parents' money or some money that I've hustled together to walk into a free zone or walk into DED and say, hey, listen, here's my 20K and I'm an 18-year-old. You're asking somebody else for their 20K. I'd like to register a business. What I think could be quite interesting, and I'm sure this will happen, we might not get privy to the information, is you might even get subsidies. Like if you're a UAE national, you could even get like a 50% contribution to registering a company. I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah.
If you can lower the risk a little bit, then that's going to make entrepreneurship part of the culture here. So it's very, very good news. And again, it's just one of those ones where it's like, you know, we're privy to certain information and then we kind of see things coming around the corner. But this is not something I was expecting. Firstly, I didn't even know that you had to be over 21 to register a business. I'm sure I
didn't know
signed something when I registered our business, but the fact that you can now do it 18 is like, it's incredible, man. It's a real positive.
Yeah, I didn't know. And again, you know, it's just one of those things that UAE is just, it's like, it's almost every week there's something coming out, whether it's something huge at like a, you know, federal level or policy level or something small, but there's something coming out of the UAE every single week because I think they just need to stay in cycle all the time with like positive news, which is what they're doing. Yeah, it's good. And I think you're right. Maybe there's some subsidies. You wouldn't want to stop the local, you know, they're talking about Emiratization. This is another avenue for quote unquote Emiratization to get the young Emiratis or Emiratis into the workforce, whether it be on their own merit or through a company. And again, a lot of these guys have grown up around entrepreneurship. Yeah. You know, if you think about a lot of the companies that are in the UAE, you know, the family run companies, etc. And, you know, a lot of young Emiratis see that in their family, whether it be directly their parents or maybe their uncles or their grandparents or whatever it might be. So there is definitely, I feel, aspiration. A lot of them study abroad, and that also brings that kind of, you know, those entrepreneurship tendencies, or at least opens their eyes to those opportunities. And they come back here and they're like, well, I can give back to my country at the age of 18 by having my own company. Then why not? And, you know, you got corporation tax around the corner and everything. So maybe there's a tie in with that.
Yeah. I can't wait for corporation tax. Honestly, I think it's. I can't wait.
I know what you're thinking. Although corporation tax is a bit of a is tricky at times, but it separates the wheat from the, what do you call it? The wheat from the chaff, right? Or something like that, right?
I don't know. It's one of those things whereby, you know, there's a lot of companies here that will not be affected. Well, I think every company will be affected if you do onshore business and whatnot. But yeah, it's gonna be really good. And I think also the idea of as well of like citizenship. So think about this: you're 18 years old, and you come to the UAE, and you manage to muster up enough money to start your own company, get your own visa, and now all of a sudden you grow up in some place that maybe doesn't have the same breadth of opportunities. You know, name the country, whatever it may be. And you come here from that country, and at 18 years old, you register a company, you get your visa, you get everything, you get a flat, and now you're kind of in the game, you know. And even if you do go and work for somebody or subcontract for somebody, they don't even need to have the risk of paying for your visa. Yeah. So now all of a sudden, they've just got to put together a cash package. They don't have to pay for your flights, but they can compensate you accordingly. They don't have to pay for your health insurance, but they can compensate you accordingly. And now all of a sudden, you're in the game. And you come to a country like this at 18 years old of your own free will as an adult, and you spend 10 years from 18 to 28 here. I mean, that's pretty game changing. It's very, very good. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
Betting on yourself becomes a real opportunity in a buoyant market, like in a booming market, you know. Whereas, you know, in other markets, if you're betting on yourself, there's still a lot of red tape, challenges, this, that, the other, competition. But you come to Dubai, then, you know, this is, you know, land of opportunities. So why not?
I think there'll be a lot of positive things that come out of it, because I think also, like, there's just no point in restricting an 18, 19, 20-year-old to make a business, because what if they have a great idea? They have to wait 3 years, and then that idea is no longer able to, like, reach the level it would have been when they were 18. So I think we'll see great things.
Or they go somewhere else.
Yeah, or they just go somewhere else.
Yeah, because you know, I'll tell you, like, we talk about this less so on the ALGO group chat, but on the family one, like, Portugal's not playing around. Portugal is doing what Malta hoped to do, but they've actually pulled it off. Plus, you know, Malta's like, you can carpet the whole place for like $20, whereas Portugal's like a real actual country. So, you know, not that Malta's not a real actual country, but what I'm saying is Malta is a small place with a small total addressable market, right? Whereas Portugal may as well be Portugal, Italy, Spain, and France, and Germany. Like, it may as well be. You're in there. You've got your visa. You've got your road transport access. It's just a real opportunity. And then you look at channels like Nomad Capitalist and stuff like that, where telling people like go where you're treated best. And now there's a real opportunity for an 18-year-old to come here, and if they are an entrepreneur and this is what they're meant to be doing, then they could have a really great life over here. Great story. All right, let's see, and let's see what case studies come out of it. What else is on the docket?
So Chris Brown has officially passed Elvis Presley as in terms of like gold, like decorated gold records. So he's now got 55 gold certified singles.
So Beatles had 54 or 55?
No, Elvis had 54.
Elvis had 54 and he had 55. Okay.
He's got 55. Future's got 68. Eminem's got 72. Drake's got 74.
But they're not categorized as singers, right?
No, these like male acts.
Yeah.
So I think you know, a lot of this sort of stuff is like Chris Brown getting compared to like King of Pop, and now he's beating the King of Rock and Roll, and you know, there's all that kind of stuff.
It's honestly, it's racism, man. Because I'll tell you one thing. When do these hit the headlines? Is when somebody passes either Elvis or the Beatles. Even Jay-Z made a big point. He was like, "I've passed the Beatles now. So what are we saying?" Mm-hmm. But I think with something about with Chris Brown though is that look at his categorization. I think it was more like singer or something, because the other guys are rappers and they are actually technically in a different category. Otherwise, they'd have compared the two together.
Male vocalist
with
the most gold certified singles.
I guess Future and these guys are male vocalists, but I think it's just different because they're predominantly known for like rapping, right, as opposed to like singing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So good for Chris Brown, man. And actually, he started off mad young as well, right? In his teenage years,
14 or something.
Was he as young as that?
Something like that. Yeah.
How old was he when Excuse Me Miss came out?
Was that his first record, right?
Yeah.
Run It came after and all that, didn't it? Yeah.
Run It came after, yeah. Run It came
out 2005.
Oh, Run It came out way later. So he had that. Then he had his record with them.
2005 was Excuse Me Miss.
Excuse Me Miss. How old was he then?
Good question.
Or check his age now, and then we'll do the reverse
Chris
maths.
Brown, age. He is 33.
Okay. So how old was he?
33. What is that? 17 years ago.
Please bear in mind that it's 2023 now.
Yeah, but depends on his birthday, right?
No, but I'm saying if you get it within 1 year, I'll be impressed. Just using your mind maths.
23 minus.
No, you should be able to do this. He's 33 now in 2023.
18. Quick maths.
I can't believe I witnessed him. What did you do? You did 2023 minus 2005. He literally typed that.
Yeah, it's just quick.
So how old was he when he released the single?
Oh, I didn't even think of it. 18.
If he's 33 minus 18, how is that 18?
It's not.
I didn't even think of that.
No, why would you?
It's not. He's doing it all.
Yeah.
15.
15, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Why was like tapping it into a laptop?
Because that's how I was born. Or that's the era I grew up in, right? Just calculate it on the phone. You just do everything. You don't need to like...
But you can minus 18 from 33, right?
Obviously, but
clearly not.
It's just reflexes.
Man, it's so interesting. Like I would just... It's funny, we had this conversation about Ine doing tutoring the other day. Do you remember?
We had a few conversations.
That's for that reason. Because you can be like he could be killer drummer, rugby player, but that quick maths. Me and him did 9 times table the other day, and he thought I was like Gandalf.
Dude,
I showed him quick maths.
Yeah, I do that. Sit there, do that with him all the time.
Yeah.
We do a lot of mental maths with him because I think it's a really important skill to have.
Yeah,
like we grew up in shops. We all grew up in shops, and that was just the way that
always,
you do it. You know, you just very, very easy and very quick. But with him, like in the car, like if we're talking about something and some numbers come in, I'll be like, all right, do it, and then he'll do it, and then he'll ask me questions and stuff. So we do a lot of that. I think it's as important as learning the English language.
I can't even remember the last time I did math.
Well,
I mean,
just now you did it. Look,
I mean, as in properly, probably because Probably
but that is the underpinning code of like drone piloting, right?
No
angles, no wind speed.
I mean, to a certain extent, but like not really.
Not if you fly an autopilot.
Yeah, no, but I think also that's
if you use the sync button of drones.
That's more for like helicopter, right? Drone is a lot more like there's a lot less to figure out.
Forward.
Yeah, there
Backward.
we go.
Yeah.
Up, down, left, right.
Nice. Okay. Well, yeah. Good job. Good job to Chris
Yeah.
Brown. I think that's and there's still plenty of time left ahead. He's 33 years old,
Yes,
so
time.
like
He won't stop. He's got plenty of time in front of him. So let's finish up with some not so good news, unfortunately, coming out of London. On Saturday afternoon, we're recording this on Monday. So on Saturday afternoon, there was a drive-by shooting outside a funeral home in London, Euston. Not the station, but I guess nearby, closer to one of the residential areas. So apparently there was a car that drove by with a shotgun. There was mourners outside a funeral home who were mourning the loss of a mother and a daughter who lost their lives within a month or in the same month.
How did they
something
die?
like this? I'm not sure. There's no details about that, but that's kind of like the story. And apparently a 12-year-old girl and 4 other women were injured in a drive-by. And I think one of them's in like critical condition. So there's no other news unless you've seen anything about, why or who. They're still
What's
looking.
the latest story news today? Like as of today, on that story.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, there's nothing
they're
else.
still
This
looking
came out
for-
yesterday. Yeah.
Wow.
They're looking for witnesses. They're looking for, suspects, etc. So there's literally nothing else. It's a Toyota car that drove past and it was a shotgun apparently. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because, we've spoken a little bit about the UK, and I think that was my biggest loser in the wrap up for
I think it might have
episode
been.
50,
Yeah.
And shooting is not a common thing that you hear out of the UK. I know it happens, but it's not a common thing that you hear. And this is a very significant one because it's right in the middle of town. And when you look at it on the face of it, there might be other information or whatever that we don't know. But just looking at the face of it, you're talking about a car that's driven past a funeral home and just shot at a bunch of mourners. So that in and of itself has, it's not a cool thing to do. And it's just another little black mark for the UK and London specifically. So it's a shame, man. Like, hopefully these girls
it's women. It's outside of a funeral home.
Yeah.
It's tragedy mixed with poor taste.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really a sucky event, but not uncommon as well. I mean, like, it's just that it's weird that when we talk about Euston, it'd be the equivalent of like, not that Dubai is set up the same way, like center and then move outwards, but it's like one of the most prime locations, definitely one of the most expensive locations in London, and one of the most connected as well. So it's just like, it's really super sad, to be honest, but it's something that the UK needs to do something about. What I'm shocked about though is how they were not able to track that car all the way back to wherever it ended up. Like, because Euston, I know for a fact, because I used to work there, has a ton of CCTV everywhere. So they must have at least been able to track the car a certain distance. For them to not be able to have that person gripped and grabbed, 48 hours after the incident is kind of confusing to me. It'd be different if it was like out in the rural suburbs or somewhere, but like,
which also have a ton of cameras. Yeah. Like even all the suburbs, like a lot of the main roads have cameras and stuff. So in theory you can track, but it's a shame to see, like, again, you work there. I spent a lot of time around that area, and it's just a shame to hear news like that coming out of London, and I guess it's unnecessary, right? So there's that. And I don't know if you guys saw, not to end on a like bad note, but there's like a massive plane crash in Nepal. Did you hear about that? That happened this morning or
I
overnight?
did not.
that was a couple of nights ago, and then there was one this morning as well.
This morning, yeah.
Really?
So
Another
68
one.
people
Yeah.
have died in the worst airplane crash in 30 years, as far as the kind of reports are concerned.
Yeah.
So we don't know what happened there, but that's a real shame. So,
Bit of a downer. I mean,
Yeah.
shouts to everybody who's condolences to those in Euston that have lost someone. Terrible. I mean, I don't know, man. The last thing you want to, certain places you expect drive-bys, but not that part of town. Like,
no,
really
not
that
right
part
in
of
the
town.
center of London.
Yeah, and you combine that in with all the muggings, the acid attacks, the moped robberies, the crime at retail. It's the UK. I wish, it's kind of weird because this is my ego talking, but I was saying to people this time last year, as we were coming out of the pandemic and going into Omicron, I was like, this is fine. I've seen how winter is. Q1 2023 is when it all goes to hell. I called it, and I've said it consistently. Proof in fact. I mean, it's quite depressing. It's not something you want to brag about, but like, it's happening exactly how I said it would happen. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Subsequently, though, as a result of that, though, I would say buy Apple and Disney and Facebook.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Without
Like if you've got some cash. Have you seen as well that like there's that like savings interest rates have gone up in the UK.
Yeah.
So even if you've not got, like my mortgage has gone up by a significant amount, you may as well just call it double, because we're talking about like 11 basis points or either way. But you could now literally reduce your exposure to interest, because if your mortgage is 6% and banks are offering you 5%, you're only paying the swing, which is 1%. But if you don't do anything with that money, if you haven't got it to put into the debt, you do need liquidity and you put it in the cash, you're only paying 1% on that debt. And I think that's one thing that I'm going to be talking a lot about, because I spent a lot of time deep in mortgage town in the last 6-7 weeks as my mortgage shifted from end of October to early February. But there's a lot of stuff that people are going to have to do. It's very, very dangerous times right now. It's dangerous to have money, because inflation's murdering it and cost of living is murdering it. It's also dangerous to not have money, because you can get wiped out. So I think what's going to be good about this recession is it's going to force people like me. I consider myself quite bright when it comes to money, but it's going to force a lot of us to get even smarter, because this threat is like super duper real. So yeah, the UK is going to bear the worst of it. We're good here because, there's so much opportunity and everything else like that. But like the UK is going to have a lot to deal with, and a lot of people are going to get blindsided.
Yeah, we're good here. But if you've got interest in the UK, then of course that
it's going to be
impact,
really
right?
bad. Well, that's the reason why I know about it. If I didn't have a mortgage in the UK, I'd be like walking around here like happy town, like there's nothing to be worried about. But it's almost like you know how it is. You got a property there too. It's almost like you're always going to have one handcuff to the UK whilst you've got a property there, and it kind of gives you that dose of reality. Because the more I was Googling and working with mortgage calculators, I was like, man, imagine if on top of that as well I was paying gas bills in the UK, electricity bills, all the other bits and pieces. It'd be a barrage. I think another thing as well, subsequently as a result of that as well, is going to be like, I think we're going to see a lot of mental health issues again this year.
Yeah, 100%. There's no doubt about it.
Suicides, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
we're going to see it in the UK. It's not looking good at all. Let's see how the summer goes. I'll be back over there. I'm sure you will too.
Yeah,
as well at some
that's
point.
the plan. So content recommendations. I have had a boring week, so I've not been out and I've got no content recommendations. So over to you guys.
Do you want to start or should I?
No, you start.
Okay, so first there's actually both of us. We talked about it. Mr.Beast and Lex Fridman podcast. I thought it was just very different, or at least not very different, but I think Lex Fridman asked some questions that others haven't to MrBeast, and I think it shows a little bit of a different side of MrBeast, which I enjoyed. What about you? What do you think?
MrBeast made this interesting point about halfway through the episode where he was like, or before the halfway mark, where he was like, the longer you go in a podcast, the less likely you are to fall off. And he was talking about videos in general. 15 minutes later after I fell off.
Really?
So just explain that. The longer you go in a podcast, so the longer the podcast
Mr. Beast's main metric has always been retention.
Yeah.
So he said, the funny thing is that the longer you go into a video, the more likely you are to complete it. So if a video, call it, is 5 minutes, if you're in the first 30 seconds, there's no correlation between making it to 5 minutes. But if the video is like 20 minutes and you're at the 10-minute mark, the correlation is exponentially higher that you'll make it to the end, unless something chronically boring or terrible happens. And that's what happened. I think Lex Fridman came out with the questions about death as soon as he opened the podcast. He got a lot of compliments and positive feedback from Mr. Beast. I think it gassed him up, and he tried to go a little bit too dynamic on his questions. And I found the interview to get quite boring. And at the 2/3 mark, I've stepped out. Now, I will finish it because of who the guest is. And basically with Mr. Beast, as long as you let the man talk, every 8 to 10 minutes, you're going to get something that, at least in our business, will move the business forward, because he's got so much incredible insight. But yeah, I mean, it was a great interview, and there was loads of useful stuff in there. But I also feel as well, and I noticed this with Rich Roll and Seth Godin, which is another of my content recommendations, is that people try to be so like orthogonal and contrarian in the way that they ask questions, that they actually take away from the fact that the man's telling you the answer. And you're like, yeah, but what about, and then how about, and then you bring in all these other references and books and da-da. And it's like, yeah, we get it, Mr. Podcast Guy. You're really bright, but maybe let's just let that man's point breathe, or let that woman's point breathe, and let it be what it is and accept it, and then try and build on it, rather than just constantly like, I feel like with a lot of these podcasters, and no disrespect to any of them, Lex Fridman knows what he's doing, so does Rich Roll, but like, I sometimes feel like when it's time to move on and build on a point, they try to like over dissect. And they kind of lost me on that one.
I actually think the job of an interviewer fundamentally is to make their guests shine.
Yeah.
That's the job of the interviewer. So if you start to bring in too many references or try and outshine the guest, like outshine the master type thing, then it doesn't make for a good podcast, because then it becomes contrarian. Then you kind of, if they're two very smart, ego driven people, then you're going to see a clash of heads, right? And that doesn't make for a good.
Well, I just feel like that you're not getting the most out of the interview. Yeah. If you're going to be like, well, you make a good point, Seth Godin, but and then again you put out these whole like contrarian points, or you try and kind of like there's a time where you've got to dissect, and there's a time when you've got to build and move on. And I just feel like there was a point of literally on Lex Fridman's podcast. I was here listening to it over the weekend, where I was like, oh, I can definitely tell that Lex Fridman's gone all in on making it up as he goes along. Because all of his questions were becoming far too reactionary. And I was like, yeah, I kind of felt like he ran out of questions for Mr. Beast. And it's all well and good being like, Lex Fridman's like, oh, I don't look at my metrics. I don't look at my numbers. How do I do this? How do I do that? And then Rich Roll was saying to Seth Godin, like, I hate to think about myself as a brand. And, I think about myself. That's too much of a business way to look at myself. And Seth was like, fine, but you still have to. Like, think what you want. Like, you can be like, I don't hate people that do this, but I understand that it can be uncomfortable to think about yourself as a brand, but great, but you still have to.
Yeah.
Because the pop industry and the music industry considers its biggest people brands. The acting and movie industry, motion picture industry, consider their most significant people, including producers, directors, costume people. They consider them to be brands, choreographers, etc. So you are going to be this thing, and then it's just this constant need to kind of like humble brag each other about how they're just so like disconnected from their truth and their reality. And it's just like, it's cool and all, but like, I just feel like sometimes you just got to keep it raw and just gangstered, you know what I mean? Just call it for what it is. But it was a good interview. Anytime that Mr. Beast talks, especially if you're lucky enough for him to go long form, is very, very insightful, especially to us as content creators, because 80 to 90% of what he talks about is content creation and quality, which is super important. And he's very tactical. So good content recommendation. Also, although I've not finished it, check out Seth Godin on Rich Roll. Superb.
Cool. What else you got?
Yeah, I think maybe two ALGOs ago I talked about Ozark, and I finally finished that, and I thought it was a great show.
Yeah.
Good ending and everything. So
how many seasons?
4. It's long.
And it's done?
Yeah, finished.
Four
Yeah,
seasons?
you can tell from the ending. It's
how many episodes per season? I know I asked you this last time. I forgot.
Good question. I think like 16.
Oh, so significant. We're talking.
Oh,
Breaking
maybe
Bad
no.
numbers.
I think it's 10. That's right. I think it's 10.
Okay.
I think it's 10, but that's still long, right? I'd say decently long. But overall, really satisfied with it. I hadn't watched a TV show honestly in a while. I'm more on the movie side of things, but I like watching a TV show once in a while, and really enjoyed Ozark.
Do you think you'd ever rewatch it?
Ozark?
Yeah.
I don't know. For me to rewatch a TV show, I have to wait a good amount of time to like really forget it, because like I already know what happens at the end, right? So it's kind of like ruined. I don't know.
It's that hedged towards the end, eh?
No, I think the whole thing's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the
but
whole.
If you know the end, it kind of messes it up. Like we're Breaking Bad. If you know the end.
If you know the end, exactly. I think it's one of those things you watch once, and like you're good.
I did rewatch The Office. I tell you, right, over the pandemic.
Oh, what the
post-pandemic?
The UK or the US?
The US one.
From beginning to end.
I might have maybe missed out a bit at the beginning, but yeah.
But did you see it all the way through to when Idris Elba's in there, right?
Yeah.
All like the last.
Which again is, I'm sure there's some people that didn't like that. I didn't think it was the best, but like, I felt like overall, if you do make it from start to end, it's significantly better than it is worse. I mean, like more than 80% of what you see is great. There were some episodes where I was like, didn't really do it for me, but it's going to be the case when you've got volume. We always talk about this, right, when we're teaching as well. Once you get to a certain level of volume, there is a natural rank and file. Yeah. And you will notice the difference between the bottom 20 percentile quality-wise and the upper 20 percentile. So, good. What else you got?
I don't have any more, but you have Why Brilliant Minds Are Moving to Dubai. Vishen Lakhiani.
Yeah, so this guy is an interesting dude. I don't actually know him personally. I'm sure I know we've got plenty of mutuals because I saw them on this video. So he put this video out on Instagram. It was on his own, Vishen Lakhiani, with Mind Valley. It was tagged in both. He was over here in Dubai recently. He's been in and out a fair bit, and he did a get-together. It looked like he did a get-together at 3BK, Burj
Oh,
Khalifa.
okay, yeah.
It looked like the same venue, and effectively there was 80 people, and it basically looked like my friends, your friends. But he had some incredible people there, like so our friend Sarah Al Madani was there. He had Erica Kohlberg there and a few other people. Erica, who I've still not met yet, I'm gonna send her a clip of this and be like, let's kind of get together. But the some dope creators that I really kind of like respect there and nice people, and yeah, it was just cool, man. It looked like he made a really compelling case over like 7 to 9 minutes, I believe, as to why you should move to Dubai. Very Mind Valley-ish, a lot of B-roll, a lot of that kind of stuff. But he kind of presents his case in a good way, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of people that come to Dubai as a result. And I saw in one of the video clips it said "Visit Dubai" as like a watermark.
Okay.
So I don't know if he just used that with permission or if he did it in collaboration with any of the main bodies out here that promote tourism. But it was a very, very good clip, really, really significant. Something that I feel like for most people when they want to make their case about Dubai, especially if you're in entrepreneurship, it's one of those clips that's very interesting because you'd rather forward his clip than make your own. Like it's one of those kind of clips that acts as a shortcut for other people. Where if someone's like, "Hey Vic, should I come? Should I register a business? Should I do this? What's it like?" You're like, "Well, you know what, dude? There's really not much I can tell you that's not in this video. So just watch this guy's video."
Yeah, plus he comes with like credibility and all these kind of things. And
well, you'd have more credibility in him in that situation because they've come to you. But it's like you're going to make the same points. So rather than write out 16 paragraphs or take a Zoom call, you'd be like, "Listen, dude, watch this. And if you've got any questions, drop me a message." Because the way this guy looks at things and the way that I look at things, because we're active market participants here, are pretty similar.
What about Divine on Hot 97?
Yeah.
We actually spoke about him on the last episode as well.
We
right?
did, yeah, because he's coming for Wireless Festival, which has been super
Very
well
true.
programmed.
Yeah.
So I saw this and I meant to put it in the group and I forgot, which would have not affected me because I forgot. And then thankfully Kish put it in the group. But Divine is this rapper that's been on mass appeal. He was at Soul DXB 2019. Very interesting guy. I didn't really pay any attention to it because for me there was just so much other music that was catching my eye at the time. And it was probably one of those things like on my to-do list, but I never got round to it. So what happened was it was 19 minutes and I had that time. So I put it on in the background, started watching it. And what I really liked about this interview is I've never heard his music and I've never heard him speak. And I couldn't even tell you what he looks like, even though we've been in the same room together and I've seen him. But the way this guy spoke, it was so smart. He had such a quiet confidence about him. And the way he kind of like described what the scene's like in India. He was talking to a young lady on Hot 97. She wasn't like one of like the main presenters that you see a lot of clips from. She was like maybe someone on that track, but kind of like not Ebro or Rosenberg or anybody else like that. But very talented girl, asked some great questions, pronounced a lot of the Indian words right, which I super appreciated. And she was just really positive and enthusiastic. And it sounded like she was really trying to get the Hot 97 listener to be interested in what's going on out in India. So I thought to myself, okay, we got some friends that are in music that are in India as well. So I thought, let me pull up the guy's Spotify. It didn't take long before I found some records that I like. He's got a record with Jadakiss, which is cool.
Oh, okay, nice.
But like there was some other records on there, not those kind of records where I really kind of liked it. And I also kind of realized as well, listening to his music, that I do understand quite a few Hindi words and I could understand some of the verses and the bars. The flows are kind of what I expected them to be. You're not going to get like the flows that you'll get from like veteran US artists, but the guy can definitely rap and he's got some decent stuff going on. I might have even favorited one or two records. So yeah, big up to Divine for making it over to Hot 97 and somebody who is really on our doorstep here in India. You'd think I'd know about, especially being a hip hop head, but I didn't. I thought it was a great interview. You should go check it out.
Is it in Hindi? Is his music in Hindi?
It's
a combination.
It's a mix of
English?
Languages, but predominantly Hindi.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then you finally got round to Strech and Bobbito, right?
Radio That Changed Lives. It was good. It was good. Produced by Bobbito. Strech did the music on it. It was really, really good. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know these guys too well. I've met them both. We saw Strech recently. And I've said hello to them both. I find them quite easy to like. They seem quite cool, but it does seem to me watching that documentary that Bobbito is the one that's like really pushing it. Like Strech is like the background guy, the DJ, focuses more on that. And it was interesting because there was a period of time in their history where they famously like fell out. There was a lot of tension for quite some time. And then they decided, okay, you know what? We're not going to do the show together. You do 1 week, I'll do the other. And on that journey there, what happened was people started to call it the Bobbito show because Strech was DJing. So people that annoyed Strech because he was like, well, it's Strech and Bobbito, and a lot of Strech's work was getting unrecognized. So to get a lot of the records that Strech had that lit the city on fire, Strech, as you know, in those days, the vinyl days, you had to work very, 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 very hard to get exclusive records. Like you had to know the artist, you had to go and get a test press, you had to do a lot of difficult stuff to get records. So that's what he was bringing to the table. But he was the nerd that was on the turntables, and he didn't get as much recognition as Bobbito, who was on the mic and lighting it up and doing requests and all these other bits and pieces. So that caused a bit of a tension between them. So it was interesting to find out why that happened, because I knew about it, but I hadn't seen the insights. It was nice to see like Hove and Nas and some real like A-list rappers, Fat Joe and stuff on there talking about the show. Really, really significant, man. Yeah, really, really worthwhile documentary. If you weren't around in the 90s, it really highlights it. You know, even Sway and King Tech, Sway was on there being like, yeah, you guys were the blueprint. So I didn't realize like how important they were, but they were as important as like a Red Alert or somewhere like that in the US.
Yeah.
But just a step generation afterwards.
Just before we move on to Out and About, actually, I've got a couple of recommendations. So I was listening to Akash Singh from Flagrant.
Yeah.
He was talking about Blackbird, a TV show. I think it's on Apple TV, and it's got. Have you seen Kingsman? So it's got Taron Egerton, who's from Kingsman, and Paul Walter Hauser, who is in Black Klansman, and he's in Cobra Kai, the TV show.
Oh, I never watched it.
Yeah. So the show is about Taron, who's arrested for being a drug dealer, and then he gets a deal to go into this like really high security prison to talk to a serial killer about where the bodies are buried, effectively. But it's like a maximum security with no protection, no nothing. And, you know, does he do it? Whatever. I'm literally, I think, 37 minutes into the first episode, and I'm in it, I think.
Good.
Yeah, so far it's good.
One season?
One season so far. I don't know how many episodes. Like
okay, cool.
8-10 episodes. But yeah, only like 30 minutes or so in. But yeah, it's pretty good. Like,
That's good.
It's pretty good. I like Taron Egerton. He's always been pretty good, like in Kingsman and anything else that he's on. I've always enjoyed his work. And then the other one, and I haven't watched it yet, but I noticed that Kevin Hart was on Jay Shetty's podcast as well.
Oh, you mentioned this.
Yeah, so that could be interesting to see. I think that'd be quite interesting. You know, Kevin Hart's. We spoke about it, right? His like whole, you know, mindfulness and positivity and self-love and you know all that kind of motivational stuff. He's pretty good at that, and I think it'll come through on that podcast. Yeah. So let's see. It's
the perfect platform for Kevin Hart because like you said, Jay Shetty's editorial parameters on Purpose are that, and you know Kevin likes to get his thing off. You know what I mean? Like really like on those subjects. Also, big up to Jay Shetty as well. He's coming to Dubai. He's going to be at the Opera House, and the date for this. Did I send it to you guys as to when it is?
Nope.
Jay Shetty, Dubai Opera House.
I'm guessing I won't be here anyway, but
you won't be here. I think it's in April. But he's coming here because he's going to be in Promo Cycle, promoting his new book, and his dates are it's called Love Rules. It's at Dubai Opera House, and it's going to be on the 11th of May. Okay. You know, do your own research, but it looks like it's going to be on the 11th of May.
2027.
2023. See the On Purpose podcast host, global best-selling author and former monk Jay Shetty in his first ever tour, Love Rules. In this 90-minute experience, he'll take him on a journey of finding, keeping, and even letting go of love. Includes live meditations, experiments, demonstrations. It will be an unforgettable and transformational evening, and then a whole bunch of stuff about what he's achieved. This looks like it's in the press release, but yeah.
They should pay you for that advertisement.
He doesn't need to pay me, man, because he's a good dude. He did something nice for me once, so I'll always have love for Jay Shetty. Plus, he follows me on Instagram, which, depending on the kind of, typically it's the kind of females that get gassed over this.
Yeah.
But when somebody adds you when you're out and about, they go, "Oh, Jay Shetty follows you." So I'm like, okay, well that's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? And with dudes, it's Gary Vaynerchuk because he follows me. So like, I'm kind of grateful that I consider myself lucky that both these dudes even follow me on Instagram. To be fair.
And he's probably going to be here doing like podcasts, interviews. He might even get some guests on his own show. He might just do a whole thing about it.
Yeah, he probably will.
Yeah,
it'd be a good place to pick up guests. Yeah. 11th of May as well, just before the summer kicks in. It's good. Be nice to see him. I wonder if we get a chance to see him.
That kind of stuff, right? So, Out and About, what you guys been up to? I told you I've been boring. So it's for me, it's like last week was the first normal week back since Bali, because when we came back, my son was ill for like basically a week, and then the next week was like kind of just getting back into things, and last week was like the first week of like normality and like normal routine. So it didn't really do much, just work and went home and spend time at home. So
Fair enough.
what about you guys? You've been in
I went to a few
the UAE,
places.
right?
I mean, we already talked about my trip in Abu Dhabi last podcast, but in terms of since I arrived to Dubai, I went on Friday night. I went to a new restaurant called The Nice Guy, which is a restaurant based out of LA, and just brought it here around 3-4 months ago. Overall, amazing restaurant, good food. It's Italian food, so if you're interested in that, it's worth a shot. Atmosphere is great. Food was exceptional, honestly. Service was good. It was a really good restaurant.
So it's in Emirates Towers, right?
Yeah, Emirates Towers, right next to DIFC.
Yeah.
At like lower level.
Hold on, that's a great location.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
I think they took over a Lebanese restaurant that used to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Italian food, right? You said?
Yeah, Italian food.
Yeah.
Very good.
What'd you
Price
have?
point?
Price point, I'd say compared to DIFC, I found it a little bit cheaper. I mean, it's still on the expensive side of restaurants, but
What's the per head, do you reckon?
I think for appetizer and main and some drinks, it was 300 per person.
Okay.
So it's not like
That's not obnoxious.
exactly
really.
compared to other DIFC restaurants. I think it's good priced.
What about
because
capacity vibe? Any kind of
capacity is
standout?
huge. It's massive.
Is it?
Yeah, it's huge. There's a lot of space, outdoor space, huge indoor space, and then a little back room, which also could fit a bunch of people.
Little PDR.
Right.
Yeah,
Licensed?
license.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Has to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's very good.
300 isn't obnoxious.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you look at some dishes in some of these spots are like over 100 dirhams
That's
for
very
a
true.
dish.
Well, how much were the
You know.
mains?
Mains were, I mean, you can go up to like if you're getting steaks, you can go up to like 500, right?
Yeah, but the thing is,
But-
the problem with that is that when you start talking about pastas, the base is kind of typically quite low, like it's sub 100.
True. I think
What did you have?
I had truffle pizza, and for appetizer I had beef carpaccio. Probably the best beef carpaccio I've ever had.
Really?
Really like fresh. It was actually really, really good.
But you
Wow.
can't charge, like you said, the base is like you can't charge an obnoxious number
For
pizza.
pizza or pasta, or and
Yeah,
you
you
can
just
only do
can't.
that for basically the fish, like salmon, all of that, and then steak. So I guess for Italian food, you're not gonna be paying like a lot of money for Italian food. But it was a really good restaurant.
And you heard about it on?
Group chat. Yeah, because they're based out of LA, and they mentioned it probably 2-3 months ago that they're opening in Dubai,
Yeah.
and then got the idea to go out there.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
that's
cool.
Hwood Group, and that's one of Dee's friends.
Yeah.
Well, their whole gang's friends, really. So good. So they caused a sale. Nice. Good for them. Good for them. I'll let them know. Okay. And then
Last
anywhere
night you
else?
went?
Yeah, yesterday for brunch I went to a new place called Sand Beach. That's sand without a D. And it was
Where is it?
West Bay. So along, where there's February 30
On the
and
Palm.
Isn't that
all
called
that.
West Palm Beach?
West Palm Beach. on
West
the
Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just one of those new restaurants, Sand Beach. Amazing vibe as well. Really nice decoration, like decor wise, everything beautiful place. I think it'd be really nice to go there with friends, chill by the pool.
Capacity?
Capacity huge as well.
So is it a beach club style?
Yeah, so beach club, you basically have
It's not the beach side where the sand is, but then there's a path behind that, and it's behind that path. Right?
no. So there's the beach,
Yeah.
then there's a pool, and then the restaurant.
And is the
It's like
restaurant on the
all
same
together.
strip as February 30 and all that?
Yeah.
Ah,
Just
oh.
further down.
Do you know who owns it, or did you recognize anybody there?
No idea, nobody.
Okay.
But you guys should go check it out. It was
So what did you do?
It was really
you
nice.
went there or you did a pool day or what?
No, went to brunch there. I said, but yeah.
How much was the
yeah.
brunch?
I mean, when I say brunch, it wasn't actually brunch. We went to eat there at like brunch time.
No. That means that's an actual brunch. Just so you know.
Fair.
Like,
fair.
the
Not
way
Dubai-
the
not a
brunch
Dubai brunch.
actually
Not a
is,
Dubai. Yeah, okay.
Not
fair,
a brunch.
fair.
A brunch is in Dubai is all you can eat. Yeah.
I meant breakfast, lunch timing.
Yeah.
wise.
You went for a real brunch.
Yeah.
Look at him being cocky with me. He's like, yeah, I said brunch. It's like, wait a minute, come on.
No, but yeah, it was really good food as well.
What'd you have?
Appetizer, we had some ceviche,
Nice.
which was very good. And
All
then-
appetizers are raw for you.
Oh,
huh?
yeah,
That's
I
how you
know,
move it.
yeah.
And then For main, I had some sushi.
Okay.
Jeez,
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
It's good.
Cool.
What else?
Well, Saturday, we
Yeah.
had a nice party, which was, her name was Sierra.
Sierra, yeah.
Had a birthday party, just new in town from Los Angeles. We got a mutual friend, Sam, who invited us down. So that was a nice vibe. Huge yacht.
Yeah.
And she put on some great food and drinks. Music was good. So I met some interesting people. So that was nice. And then also as well, we got some fireworks as well. So
Yeah.
it's like, I think that I was like, that'll give us something to talk about on Out and About in Dubai. Yeah, I met some interesting people on there as well. It was quite nice. Felt short, you know what I mean? Because like
Yeah, we left
by
a
the
bit
time we
late.
got out and then by the time we came back, I definitely could have done like another hour on there
Yeah,
quite
for
easily.
sure.
But it was a nice vibe, like cool people, and I feel like you can say that did you actually do a brunch on this trip?
I have not. No, the only Dubai brunch I've done is with you guys.
Oh, okay.
When we went last year.
Again on the Palm, right?
Vista Mare.
Yeah, Vista Mare, yeah.
That's because I was thinking like if you go back to Amsterdam and people are like, oh, so how was Dubai? Was it like brunches and yacht parties? You can be like, well, yeah, technically it was. Stereotypes hit.
I
Well,
don't know.
no, but technically he did do a brunch.
Technically did do a brunch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sushi and ceviche brunch, yeah, but he still did a
yeah.
brunch.
Brunch timing, let's say
Yeah.
that.
Listen, and talking about pizza, last week we were in Abu Dhabi for a meeting.
Yeah.
And then we ended up in, we obviously, that meeting's always around that kind of early afternoon. So we get hungry. And then we went back to your favorite place in Abu Dhabi behind the Hilton, which is Yas Bay.
Yeah.
And
What's it called? Yas Bay?
Yas Bay.
No, but it's called something else though. Like it's got 3 letters in it. Yas Bay Waterfront.
Well,
Yes,
what it's
Bay
called.
Waterfront.
Yeah,
Right.
YBW.
Highly recommended.
I still haven't been.
Man,
We'll go on the next
go,
trip.
go when you go this
I
weekend.
need to go
This
before
week.
I leave to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will. I'll go to dinner there with my mom.
And we had planned to go to Akibadori
Yeah.
for some pizza from there. And then you saw the sign for Emmy Squared Pizza, which is also
Same guy, Sam.
Same
right? Yeah,
guy,
yeah.
Sam.
So it's so weird because it's so weird that with all the stuff that we talk about when it comes to digital marketing and brand building and all that, we were on our way to Akibadori, which is what we normally do when we go to Dubai, when we go to Abu Dhabi. And I was like, oh, hang on a second. I know that this guy owns the same pizza spot. And there's people that I know that have told me, like, nobody I know has been, but people have told me that they think it's interesting, like Dubai people. So I was like, okay, let's go hit it up. And we went in there. We ordered 1 pizza, 6 slices. Each one is like, almost like, it's like each pizza piece is like the size of a lasagna, a mini lasagna portion.
Okay.
A little bit, like not as tall, but
Yeah,
it's a good chunk of food. It's Detroit style deep dish pizza.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Yeah, it was outstanding.
was
man.
really good.
I thought it was really good. The
Yeah.
pizza. And the thing is, we weren't like crazy hungry. We were like, we need
Yeah.
something to tie us through till dinner, and obviously the journey back and all that. And getting 1 pizza with 6 pieces was enough. And it's thick. It's really thick. Like Raj said, it's like a little mini lasagna. And it wasn't dense. It was nice, light. The dough
Really
was
light. The dough was
really
right.
light.
Yeah.
We had a margarita with like this like pesto sauce on top.
Okay.
Cheese was thick and beautiful and like stringy, like what you would expect. Tomato sauce was great. I actually really enjoyed that. Now, the rest of the menu is like burgers and
Okay.
that kind of
So they have
Yeah.
diner style
everything, kind of.
stuff. Yeah, and then they've got like a red sauce pizza section and a white sauce pizza section, and we chose the red sauce one. Yeah, I was really impressed. Like the fit out's really nice, the decor's really nice. It's in a good part of Yas Bay. It's not on that kind of main block. So when you go to Yas Bay's waterfront, there's like this one square, like a U shape, where all the restaurants and bars are. This was just off to the side, which means that it's just a bit easier and not as congested.
Yeah.
So it's nice. And I
Yeah.
can imagine on Saturday night it's not going to be as crazy.
It's got
but-
more of an independent vibe as well.
Yeah.
Like, because all the ones that are on that circle that Akiba's on, you've got like Asia, and then you've got
Yeah.
Trilogy.
That's right.
You got what?
Daikan.
Daikan, yeah.
There's a
they're-
Buddha bar type.
Not that
vibe
any
on
of these
there.
are like super mega corporate franchises, but they're a bit more established.
Yeah,
Now, I
for sure.
thought Summer made that place up, but it turns out that it's from the US because some people messaged me when they saw it on my Instagram, and they were like, I go there all the time when I'm in New York. So apparently it started off in Brooklyn, quite famous. So yeah, it's nice pizza. I'd say one thing that makes these restaurants that he's got at the moment stand out as well is that, like you said, Vic, the bread was huge, and I've not had like that thick pizza bread for a long time. You typically see that when you go to like a Pizza Express or like the old school like retail kind of pizza places, like mainstream pizza places. So for the fact that they engineered that and made it high quality, the bread was really light, really delicious. I noticed that the toppings go all the way to the edge, and so the edges are seared, like the cheese is a little bit seared. That doesn't work for my palate personally. I think what I've really come to love, and this is irony because sign of a good entrepreneur because he's kind of competing with himself, is that Akiba for me is still number one because it's almost like two meals in one. Like the experience changes as the meal continues. Like with coffee, I drink coffee slow. So the beginning of my coffee is hot and the end of it is like ice cold, especially because of the AC. That's what I love about Akiba is that essentially you get the best pizza, one of the best pizzas in the country, period. And at the end you get like your bread dipping sticks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is what I love about it.
But
so,
we spoke about it. Like they're two different pizzas. So
yeah, you can't compare
them
them to each other.
But
Yeah,
I love that burnt cheese flavor.
around,
That to me is outstanding. And I just looked. I didn't even know, right? But they've got in Atlanta, in Charlotte, in Louisville, in Nashville. They've got like 3 or 4, 5 in Nashville. I think
Big markets,
New York,
yeah.
like so East Village, Brooklyn, Midtown, Hell's Kitchen, Upper East Side, Williamsburg, Philadelphia, Washington, DC. Yeah, Washington DC, Santa Monica. They got like I didn't even realize it was like this big.
It's a lot.
it's good. But another thing that ties those two places together as well is, firstly, they both know how to do the bread base impeccably. So from what I've heard, and I don't know if this is true, but I think that they use like Japanese flour at Akiba Dori and then like Italian fresh toppings. So I think you can kind of know on a blind taste test that you're in one of those concepts because the bread is really, really good. And then the toppings are good. I mean, the toppings almost look fake, like at Emmy's. Like they're beautiful. The green looks green. The red looks red. The cheese looks like cheese. It almost looks like the pizza's been ran through AI and then come out the other side as like the best kind of version of it can be. It's stunning to look at. I was just taking pictures with my iPhone 12, which takes good pictures, but not like your iPhone 14. But like, I remember taking pictures of the pizza, looking at my own shot and being like, yo, man, this is a beautiful looking pizza. So, and we made this like video and then we put it out on Instagram and a lot of people messaged me about it. So yeah, man. So big up to Emmys and big up to Samo. You know, I remember, I'll tell you this one story. I went to Dubai Hills, Akiba Dori, and I just had the craving for it. It'd been a long day. I hadn't eaten. And I went in there and I saw on the menu that they've got like the burnt crust, right? It's kind of like their thing, not burnt, but like definitely like charred. And that particular day, I don't know, my stomach's feeling a type of way or whatever. So I said to the guys, I was like, guys, I know that your thing is to char the edge of the pizza, but if possible, if the chef can, just bring it out a little bit earlier. So it doesn't char, like cook it, but it doesn't like necessarily have that kind of like brown, darker brown coating. So they did. I don't know how they did it, but they brought it out perfect. I put on salt, like just a dash and some pepper. And it was the 10 out of 10 experience of my, could it have been this year already? I don't know, possibly. It was this year. It would have been January, yeah. The best pizza. Akiba Dori is it's a joke actually how good it is. I voice noted him. I was like, if you've not got a golden visa to the owner, I was like, you should send this pizza and be like, I want a golden visa for this reason because this pizza is damn good. So,
I've only been once with you and it was outstanding. It was really.
We have a
really
boys'
good.
night. Do you remember me, you, and Inne?
Yeah. I remember. Yeah. That was the only time I've been. Maybe I go to Yasbe with my mom. Go Akiba Dori there.
Do it.
You should, man. You need to check out Yasbe.
I need to
can't
before I
believe,
leave.
man. Like you've not been.
Yeah, I don't even know why. I don't
Just
even
go,
have
like,
an
on-
excuse
Go
for
on
it.
Thursday.
I
Just
just
take her out for a pizza.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, it's a big step up for
Abu
that
Dhabi.
place. It's still quiet. The island's still quiet, but it's still there's some good stuff going on. And then that's it. Any other recommendations
No,
for this
that's
week?
everything.
No
But
other out and abouts.
You got one?
Your flashlight, by the way. But
Is it on? Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
We've
But,
actually got a couple of shout outs. Did you have any
just
more?
some shout outs.
Yeah, a couple of shout outs. So Raj, you want to shout out Sam and Sierra for
Yeah, big up for the great yacht party. Had a lot of fun. Good chance for us to all hang out. And then Sal came along as well. So yeah, good to see him. Of course, I also want to shout out as well the ALGO team. I feel like we need to get the folks. We should probably just have like a standard outro, but big up to Arjun, Bao, Jessel, Kish, Kyron, Neil, Sal, and Wes for dropping us some great stories.
this week. They did a really good job. I found it difficult when I was in Bali to kind of keep up because sometimes that group chat is like really like good
sometimes
insight
it
and
is.
opinions and stuff like that, and I found it difficult. But this week I feel like they fed us a lot of really good stories, like and a diverse amount, which was nice.
Yeah.
And then someone's birthday.
Yeah, Seb Bates.
Yeah.
Who we're kind of like, so he's a guy who he runs Warrior Academy here. Great business. Been expanding massively. We have lots of mutual friends, and we met through mutual friends. So big up to Seb, because we're also kind of keeping an eye on each other's businesses and checking in with each other from time to time. And I had a bit of a bad stomach this weekend, so I wasn't able to join him for birthday dinner, but I'll make that up to him. But yeah, man, it was big up to him, and shout out to his whole wonderful family as well. Yeah, they had a nice bunch.
Yeah, happy birthday to Seb. He's a great guy, beautiful family. Kids are amazing as well when we went around. So yeah, happy birthday to him. And another special birthday from an old friend, which is Raekwon.
Oh, of course.
Wu-Tang Clan. It's his
birthday.
Yeah,
big up Raekwon, man. We messaged on the day. We went back and forth, and big up to Raekwon. You know, there's an elite Avengers list of people that are super good friends with us that have helped us a lot, and he's definitely one of them. So shout out to Raekwon the chef.
Happy birthday.
And also shout out to I went to another birthday party. It was lit. Leela and Isla, 4 years old and 2 years old. They came out on a little wagon being pulled. I don't know what it is. Like, I guess you put kids
wagon.
in it. Yeah, and then it was so yeah.
It's a wagon.
Yeah. What else?
It's like a little wagon.
It's like a little wagon. What do you call it? A wagon.
A wagon.
Yeah.
No, but I don't know if it was like a wagon. I don't know. For me, it'd be like something you move. Like, I feel like, you know, when you go to play rugby, and then there's one guy's job is to collect all the rugby shoes and then drag all that, or bring out the water.
Drag
or
it out,
something.
like in like a wagon.
Yeah,
Yeah, literally.
but this was with 2 kids inside. So yeah, Leela's one of my favorite kids on the planet. So yeah, like it's like, she doesn't know who I am. To be fair, I only see her once a year, but yeah, great kid.
She's a cute little kid.
Yeah, super cutie. So big up to her. Anybody else we got shout outs for?
I want to shout out Alex's mum. Actually.
Oh yeah, thank you for the t-shirts.
I was walking. I was trying to look around with my bag. I put it in my bag.
You want me to go grab it?
Actually next to you.
Should we open it? Let's open it
you may as
live
well
on
open
the
it live.
podcast.
Oh.
So
Because I've not even seen Vic when he opened his.
I already opened mine. But yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
For the present.
You're welcome from my mom. I'm saying it for her. She watches the podcast, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
She'll text me. She'll be like, "Oh, great job on the episode, Ali."
No, I appreciate it, man. It's very thoughtful, and the wrapping was amazing as well.
Okay, let's see. So we get this t-shirt open. Hubabu.
No, what does it say on there?
Habibi, come to the beach. All right, I like it. I love it.
Yeah,
it's a good quality t-shirt
simple
as
little
well.
thing.
So tell us, you said that it's her friend.
Big up to Estelle for the t-shirt.
Shout out.
You said it's her
Yeah,
friend?
one of my mom's friends makes those shirts, and there's a bunch of
the brand. Let's give them a shout out. Anybody who gives us free stuff, we give them a shout out. This is what it's called, Hababu.
I assume so. I don't even know.
Go on, pull up the website. Let's give them a proper shout out.
I don't know.
How do you spell it, Raj?
It's spelled Habubu
Habubu.
by 123 Shamo. Shamo is spelled CHAMEAUX.
What if we just give a shout out to random? No, I'm joking. But yeah, they have a bunch of different shirts. They have some that's
Is it Anne Sophie?
Yes, it is. So
Is that
it
her
is.
Instagram?
Yeah.
No, it's 123 Chameau.
Chameau is camel in French.
Okay.
So 123 Chameau, and she has a bunch of different shirts. There's some that say Yalla, just Habibi. There's a bunch of them.
Oh, that's cool, man.
There's even one that says 971. Yeah.
What's her Instagram?
1, 2.
So the numbers 123,
Mm-hmm.
and then Chameau, which is CHAMEAUX, which is French for camel. Did you know that?
Well,
yeah.
I just said it.
just
So
said
yeah.
that, Also, a couple of other quick shout outs as well. I want to give a shout out to Corey, Crown Prince, for inviting us down to the party. Unfortunately, we couldn't get in because, it's another thing, but we're definitely hyped to go and see him DJ whenever we get a chance. And when we didn't get in that night, the first thing I said is, the sleep gods have spoken, which is it's time to go get sleep. And then I texted him. I said, dude, we're not going to be able to make it in tonight, but I'm going to take the opportunity to get some sleep. And he messaged me back and he said, spoken like a true veteran. And also I want to give a shout out to our friend. I don't even know if I should say his name. Should I? Yeah, let's leave it in there. It's fine. Cork it up now.
Yeah, okay. So probably not say his name.
Okay, just beep that out towards the end. There's a name you got to put out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Cork It Up Now. They've just released their new podcast, Better Sommelier. Have you heard it?
He sent it to me. I need to set aside. I said to him, I'll listen to it, but I want to set aside some
So that would be a
actual time to listen to it. So not yet.
It's that answer that Vic gave is basically the length of the podcast that he sent me. But basically it's 10 minutes
Oh, perfect.
and it is
Cool.
wonderful. So,
Okay.
and this is what I love about like new creators and naive creators is that sometimes they stumble upon stuff, like they stumble upon a certain magic that even they don't realize that they've done. So this thing, Better Sommelier, is aimed at sommeliers, which is dope. But what he's done is he talks about like putting your menu together and pricing and margin and what aspects of the menu you should change and prices and stuff like that. If you work in F&B, if you work in nightlife, or you're kind of adjacent to that industry and you speak that language that he's speaking on this podcast, it's a wonderful podcast. It's almost like a 10-minute executive briefing for sommeliers or people that speak the language, and it's incredible. So highly recommended. Go check it out. And now I'm hoping the guy stays consistent with it and continues to pump it out, but he got a lot of stuff right. No intro music, no nothing. We went for dinner with him recently. We spoke about it on the podcast. It's effectively identical to sitting opposite this man and hearing him spit what he knows.
Really?
Yeah.
So big up to them.
I was going to reference that because when we were at dinner with him, we spent, quite a fair amount of time with him. And, we spoke about doing the podcast and, all that kind of stuff and content. But when he got into talking about his world, like the wine world in general, like you could see the passion, the knowledge, like it was, and it keeps you engaged.
Yeah,
So I can't
good.
wait to listen to it, actually.
Nice.
And also shout out to Nimi. Nimi's on Dubai One TV. She's posting about it now,
Yes.
so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of our people that's gone through the 4Ps is now on TV. So super happy for her.
We gave her
Cool.
a shout out when she left Channel 4 as well. So
Yeah. So it turns out this was the next move.
Yeah.
So now we can talk about it. Yeah. So and she just
Yeah.
interviewed Tyra Banks as well.
Huge.
man,
That's massive.
huge.
Like that's big.
Exactly.
Cool. So we are done.
All right, we're done. Okay,
is
great.
it.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give us a 5-star rating on Spotify, also on Apple iTunes, and likes, comments, and all that other good stuff is super appreciated on YouTube. But also, if you can share it, we're going to do I'm going to start doing, I might even create a broadcast group. So if you get this podcast from me on a broadcast group, it's because I think you're really smart and you'll enjoy it. And then, join us next week where we'll be back all remote. Thanks for popping in, guys.
You're welcome. Enjoyed this one.
Alex, travel safe back.
Thank you so much. It's good being back live for one episode.
And we definitely recorded this, right?
Yeah. We are an hour and 42 minutes in.
Perfect. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.